Hey everybody, Alex Kazora, SteelersDepot.com back with some Pittsburgh Steelers analysis. Tomorrow starts the part of the legal tampering period of free agency, and by then we'll maybe know where some of the Steelers' top free agents are going or if some of those guys will be staying. So I want to do a short video just kind of going through quickly some of the top free agents or the majority of the free agents for Pittsburgh this offseason and give my predictions, which are sure to be wrong, and you're sure to let me know in the comments, and that's totally fair if I think those guys are going to walk or if they're going to re up with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do have an article on Steelers Depot. I will put a link to that in the description if you want to read my thoughts on free agency predictions. But let's start things off with Bud Dupree. I think Bud Dupree walks this offseason. I think in a perfect world, the Steelers would love to have him back, but financial concerns, I do think Dupree's able to cash in on a big money deal. Won't have to take the 1 year prove it deal coming off the torn ACL. You do at least have Alex Highsmith to replace him at right outside linebacker. Edge is going to be a position to address for sure, but I think Dupree just too expensive to keep. Mike Hilton, same story. I think he's going to walk. I'm a little surprised there isn't more of a talk or at least report that the Steelers aren't trying to, at least in some form or fashion, bring Hilton back. Maybe they surprise us. There's always going to be surprises in free agency, no matter what we think is going to happen. But I think maybe they just recognize he's going to be too expensive. He deserves to get paid. He's been underpaid for essentially his entire professional career, and I just see Hilton signing somewhere else. Next up is Alejandro Villanueva. I believe he will walk as well. This one feels like a foregone conclusion, and maybe some Steeler fans almost forget that he is about to be a free agent. I do wonder if his market value is going to be a little bit lower than what I initially predicted and projected, but just given the scarcity of tackles of his resume out there, he's been starting for, what, 5, 6 years now, hasn't missed a game, barely ever misses a snap. I do think he'll get paid pretty handsomely, but Pittsburgh, I think, wants to rebuild its offensive line, find some better run blockers. Villanueva almost certain to be playing somewhere else in 2021. Juju Smith Schuster, will he stay or will he go? I'm still a little hesitant to commit fully one way or the other, but I do think he walks. And I think the more I've listened to national reports and local media reports and just some of Juju's comments on social media, the more convinced I am that he will go. Now, there's still a chance that he gets re signed. The reports are Pittsburgh would like to have him back. Of course, Ben would love to have Juju back, but overall, just too many suitors on the open market, whether that's the Jets or Dolphins or who knows who gets into the mix there for Juju. But at the end of the day, I think there'll be just too many teams driving that price tag up, and Pittsburgh will not commit that kind of money. Cam Sutton, will he stay or will he go? I think he resigns. And if the Steelers lose both Mike Hilton and Cam Sutton, that would be devastating to lose both of your top, interior slot corners. And so I think Sutton is the more economical and cheaper options than Mike Hilton right now. Not entirely sure where his market's going to come in at between maybe that $3 to $5 million range. Depends on how other teams are going to value him. Is he a dime guy, outside guy, slot guy? In Pittsburgh in 2021, he'd be, of course, the slot corner to replace Mike Hilton. So I think that is one guy who's going to make his way back to Pittsburgh. Matt Filer, I think Matt Filer comes back. Maybe that's the surprise of the offseason. The one name we kind of forget about gets lost in the shuffle of all the big names like Dupree, Hilton, etc. But I do think Filer does come back. Adrian Clem, the offensive line coach, kind of let it slip a couple weeks ago, saying, when Filer comes back, we'll play him or something to that effect. And I said, well, if he signs, but I cannot get the feeling Filer's going to come back. That would, if it does happen, it'll be to kick out to right tackle, not to play left guard. Kevin Dotson should be your starting left guard for 2021, but I think Filer kicks out to right tackle. Okorafor moves to left tackle. He can battle Zach Banner. If he gets re signed, then you draft somebody maybe day three, and that's how you kind of look at your tackle situation. And speaking of Zach Banner, I think Zach Banner resigns that one. I think everyone is pretty confident in a 1 year deal, prove it type of deal for him coming off that torn ACL, potentially to compete as the starting left tackle, rebuild his value for 2022. No better opportunity for him to do that than in Pittsburgh. James Conner, he's going to walk. That's, again, a foregone conclusion, maybe the most obvious name to leave in free agency. Pittsburgh's ready to turn the page. Just the question of where does Conner end up. Sounds like Miami is interested, so maybe he takes his talents to South Beach. But James Conner is going to be playing somewhere else next season. Tyson Alu, that's a name you don't want to let get away. He played so well last year, kind of faded down the stretch because of that MCL sprain that he had to play through, had that brace, and was probably never healthy post injury. But a really valuable dude, had one of his best seasons of his career in 2020, and I think he'll come back on a minimum salary benefit type of deal. And then just quickly through the last couple of names, here's some lower key free agents. Avery Williamson, maybe he returns if Vince gets cut, but I think Williamson will ultimately walk. Jordan Berry, the punter, I know he's not everyone's favorite, but I think he gets re-signed to a cheap 1 year contract. They bring in competition for him, but he did have a career best average when they brought him back after the first quarter of last season. Chris Wormley, interesting name. Will he stay? Will he go? I think he will ultimately resign. Wouldn't be shocked if he left, though, either, because he probably wants to have a better opportunity to start or compete for a starting job, and he will not get that behind Tuitt and Cam Hayward. But I think ultimately they find a way to keep him on a pretty cheap contract. And finally, Jordan Dangerfield. I think he'll resign on a cheap 1 year contract, probably for the minimum, just about there. Special teams captain, personal protector on the punt team, and a really core guy on that third unit. So you don't want to let Dangerfield get away. So those are my free agency predictions. I'm sure some stuff will obviously be wrong. There's a lot of surprises. No one saw this team signing, for example, Derek Watt, right, the start of free agency last year, and we'll see who they keep and who they let go. But it'll be a really monumental offseason. We've been profiling this for a while now. They're going to lose some really key players, and we'll have to see how and where they replace them. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What are your Steelers free agency predictions? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.